you got to be confident but not cocky. I think there's a fine line there. And in the end of the day, any job you're looking at, you got to know what's best for you. And I don't know about the say yes to anything, because I said no to some things that probably at a time that I wasn't in a position to say no to anybody, but I just knew it wasn't right for me. I knew it wasn't going to be in the best position to do my best effort or whatever. So it's tough, especially in this business. It can be tough to say no, but I do think that you got to know thyself. I say that a lot. So that would be my advice.
I would say this for when you're talking about sticky situations and uncomfortable stuff, and I a couple or it was not this past fall, but the fall before I was visiting here. I was kind of passing through, not really passing through. I made a huge detour to come in from Cleveland to Columbus. It made no sense, but I went to the Post and I talked to two guys there, and they were going to Penn State for that Penn State game, and they were, because the Post had no money, which is crazy for travel, they were driving through the night to State College and then driving right home, which to me is absolutely – and if I had more money, I was going to buy these kids a hotel room. I felt terrible. It's like unsafe. But we used to do stuff like that. We used to drive like really late to get to games. I would miss classes. I missed class, and I ended up getting a bad grade because of it, also because I never studied, but partly because I went to Mac Media Day for basketball, men's and women's, and I skipped this class, and the guy didn't give me any breaks for it because I was working for the Messenger. So you got to be willing to do that. And I've always been willing to take those kind of things. Like I had the same internship Jay did in Israel 2 years later because I'm much younger. But it was supposed to leave on 9/12, and that was when my plane was leaving. I was packing when the planes went. My mom and I were packing my bags, and people were like, "You're not going. You're not going." I went a week later. And I would have went the next day if Air France didn't unplug their website. But, and that's – you got to take chances in life. And you'll never – I mean, my first job was in Yuma, Arizona. I mean, in the border of Mexico and California. What's up? What? Oh, yeah, it's fun. Yeah, the guy didn't get the job at Yuma. Yeah, who ended up – now he's a big-time sports writer for the New York Times. But I got the job over him at the Yuma Sun.
That just goes to show that like any business, I mean, there's no rhyme or reason necessarily to who gets a job. I think that guy got turned down by Yuma and got a job at Newsday, right?
Daily News.
Daily News.
Now he's a huge sports writer.
So he got turned down by Yuma, and a month later is working for the Daily News. So, it's a crazy, and just you got to keep your head above water as far as knowing that there are so many things out of your control. And it's not necessarily, if you don't get a job, it's not necessarily because you stink or you didn't interview well. Right. Sometimes they make bad decisions, and sometimes it's for your benefit in the long run.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I think you have to know what works for you. I mean, if there's a situation that you can't leave or you don't feel comfortable with, don't say yes because you have to. That said, like, I think it's important to be able to, step outside your comfort zone and welcome those sort of challenges. When the foreign correspondence internship, I always tell people like when I touched down there, I remember in Jerusalem, and I'm Jewish, so I know a little bit about the culture. Touchdown in Tel Aviv, right? Touchdown in Tel Aviv. Excuse me, thank you. When I touched down, there was a bit of culture shock for me, and for a minute there, I was like, "Where in the world am I?" And I was like thinking, I'm just gonna come home. I remember looking in the mirror, going, this isn't gonna work or whatever, and I said. I remember just kind of buckling down, saying, I have to stay. I want to stay. And like, I remember the Monday we went in, I love the foreign correspondence internship, partly for this reason. My first day Monday, they stuck me in a cab, sent me to Bethlehem, which is West Bank, and I'm like, I speak very little Hebrew. Basically, I'm like thrown into a car with a guy who just speaks Arabic, who drives me with a video to somewhere, and I was just completely out of my element. But that's how you get comfortable, that's how you get comfortable with yourself. You get comfortable with what you know how to do, and you also get comfortable. You draw confidence from that. When I was there, I wrote a bunch of stories in there that I'm still very proud of. But the one thing that people talked to me about afterwards was I covered a game. I went to Tel Aviv to cover. Miami Heat were in town. They were playing Maccabi Tel Aviv, so they sent me out to do that because I had a little bit of sports background, more than any of those people did. And I wrote the story there. The computer breaks. I just dictated the whole story basically over the phone. And the people next day were like, you would have thought these are like the finest journalists in the world, like the most amazing journalists in the world. And they're going, how did you do that? That was amazing, and all that stuff. And that was when it started to dawn on me, going, maybe that's what I should be doing. So you have to, don't ever put yourself in a situation. If you feel uncomfortable with something, and you feel like this isn't going to work out for you, don't just say yes to anything. But also be cognizant of, you're going to have to step outside your comfort zone probably at some point to be a success in this business. You can't just stick to, what you can do. You're going to have to jump into the unknown, and so, try and embrace that challenge. Don't run for it just because you're not comfortable,
I'm probably not the best person to speak on this because I took the first job that was offered to me. And 2 weeks later, I had an interview opportunity at another paper that was a better paper, and I didn't get that job. And I don't think it was because I had the first job. But I always thought that the best way to get a job was to have a job. So I took the first job that was offered to me, and it was covering high schools in Washington Courthouse, Ohio. And what I did when I got that job was I decided that it wasn't going to just be high schools. So I started covering Ohio State football and basketball. And I covered Bengals games. And I covered Reds games when I could. And I covered the ATP tennis tournament down in Cincinnati. And it changed the whole feel of the newspaper. And it really helped me get me on the scene because they had so many people there that didn't do that sort of thing. They just got credentials and showed up and didn't ever write anything. That once we were able to start doing that, I got really a lot of respect from Ohio State and the Bengals and those sorts of people. And as it turned out, my second job was in Hickory, North Carolina, and it was a sports editor that I worked with at the Post that offered me the job over the phone, sight unseen. So I drove down there with my brother, and we made the whole drive in like 12 hours. And I took the job, and I went down there, and that was sort of, I guess in my way of thinking, I don't feel like there's anything that I can't cover. And I don't feel like there's anything that I can't do better than what was before me. So when people ask me to do things, I generally say yes before I say no, because I don't want people to think that I can't do something.
It looks like we're running out of time, but I'll leave you with this last question. Wrapping things up as you head back to wherever your respective homes are, what is the one message you hope you leave with people here in Athens and Scripps?
Beyond anything journalism related, I would just say, somebody said to me when I was here, drinking every day like a fine wine. Now, that doesn't mean you drink every day. More like a analogy kind of. No, it's just a special, this is really special. Maybe you probably know this, but it's just, you'll never have, all your friends in one place again. So really just take advantage of just that special thing. And again, I keep it on this point is learn as much as you can, be as varied as you can, be as varied an individual as you can. You might have, again, like I said, when I was here, I had tunnel vision. I'm going to be a sports reporter, and my first job was in news. So, I wish I had been more, worldly and differentiated and all those things when I had been here. And I still wish that to this day. There's things I would have taken some more challenges as far as the classwork I took and that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, that's my biggest thing. Is just this is a really special time in your life, and soak it up, and then try to come back every year like me.
I would definitely absolutely second what he says about soaking every day in, because when you graduate, that we were talking about this, we were at the Cat's Eye earlier, and that's like the last bar I went to after graduation because it had the latest last call, and you start thinking about all the stuff that you missed, that you didn't do. Even though I did a ton here, I'm that type of person where I obsess about that. But as far as journalists, everything I've told you before, I 100% believe. The other thing I probably didn't stress enough: have fun. I read some of your guys' stuff sometimes, or I'll watch the things, and you guys are so focused, as you should be, on getting things right and getting the fundamentals down. Remember to have fun. Whether it's have fun with the lead, have fun with a sentence. Like when you're watching, just have something that puts your personality on the paper or on video, and you do that enough, and you have the fundamentals, and you'll be successful, maybe.
I said this to Justice class this afternoon. I think it's important, take a lot of pride. You're about to, whether you're in journalism major or whatever, communications or whatever, you're about to enter a very exclusive and important club. I mean, people have been doing journalism, out of OU very well for a long time. And, you're by, studying here and hopefully going on a graduation degree, you're accepting a certain level of expectations. It's important to us that you meet those expectations. It should be important to you, So I think like they said, have fun, try and do as much as you can, but take it seriously too. It's important that you're good at this. More than ever, it's important that you're good at this. So, do your best and when you get the chance, pay it forward. I told another story. I mean, it meant something to me when I was a senior to see Peter King come in and talk to us, because it kind of eliminated the distance between, what I would term as a successful career, and where I was sitting at the time, and so I think come back, help teach people, teach classmates, years from now what you've learned, so it's important. So just keep that in mind too.
I almost don't even want to say anything, because I think I've said what I've said it twice already, and it's really just, I can't stress enough, make the most of your time while you're here. Take advantage of all of the resources that are here, and make certain that when you come out of here, and don't think about competing against the guy next to you, because that's not really who your competition is. It's the guy at Kent State. It's the guy at Missouri. It's the guy at UCLA or wherever. That's who you're competing against. And so you have to be that much better than them. And the tools and the resources are here to make you better. You just have to take advantage of them. You have to make sure that you've done the things that you need to do on this campus. I can't tell you how many young people I've met who come out and they haven't done an internship. All they really did during their time in college is they partied, they stayed at the bars. The bars, I mean, you should be here to have fun, but I'm telling you, the bars are not going to get you a job unless you just so happen to be sitting there drinking next to, one of these guys or something. But if you're not, but if chances are you're sitting there next to your classmate, that's not going to help you. Make certain that you're making the sacrifices. I hated working at the Post, but I did it. Back then, we spent I don't know what it's like now, what the environment's like now. We used to spend all night there some nights, and I thought that was ridiculous. I would go from there to class some mornings. But it was putting in that work, putting in that time, spending that time even with the Athens Messenger, where I had a sports editor who made no sense to me, and thank God I've never worked for anybody like him again. But but it was good in that I got some great experience working over at the Messenger, having a chance to, go cover high schools in some very, very strange places. Oh my God. You talk about adversity. I saw people that I didn't really know how to make that out sometimes, but but it was great. Those times were good and they helped. Because those experiences helped shape me as a journalist, and they opened up doors for me. So while you're here, take advantage. Take advantage of people like Justice Hill, he's been in the industry, and quite honestly, he's still kind of in it. So he knows people, and he knows what it takes to be successful. And you guys can really get a lot from him. So make sure you take advantage of people like that as well.
Just for the record, Terrance, I loved working at the Post, and I hope I wasn't that sports editor.
It was his name Ray or something?
Oh, at the Messenger?
Yeah, he drink beers all night while he edited
I'm a
the
sports
stories.
editor at the Messenger.
Really?
We had a guy who just laid out pages, so I had so many mistakes in my
It was
stories.
this guy named
I wish
Ray.
I would have had an editor.
Ray wasn't an editor. He was just a body there. He'd come in with a six-pack, and he'd drink his six-pack. And he got mad at me because I wouldn't drink on the job, so he wanted to fire me.
I'll say one thing about drinking. When you talk about don't just go to the bar, and this is more of just a funny anecdote. When I was in Israel, I went out with the bureau chief because he felt he could because I wasn't going to be there. And he literally almost got me the AP Jamaica correspondent job. It's been the greatest job ever, but I never got it, and I ended up in Arizona instead.
But I guess my message is this. The old-timers of us now in the industry sit around and talk about what the industry used to be, and we see the obits written about this industry all the time. And the industry really hasn't changed. When you think about it, and you think about the way that websites are used now, the thirst for knowledge, I don't think, has ever been greater. People want more and more information. The only thing that's changed is really the way it's delivered. And so when people write these obits about newspapers and things, just remember that journalism hasn't changed. You still have to be a good reporter. You still have to be a good writer. You still have to be accurate. You still have to be fast. That part hasn't changed. And so journalism isn't dying, just the means of delivery is changing.
All right, well, before I officially wrap things up, I just want to remind the students out there that we do have a workshop. So if you guys want more of these wonderful alumni, show up to the workshops tomorrow in Scripps that begin at 9:50. We'll also have SPJ and RTD&A will also have more events with spectacular panelists like yourself later on this semester. So make sure to stay up to date on our Facebook, Twitter, and websites. Otherwise, before you head out, and I send you out to wherever you're going, probably the bars, right? Let's just give these folks one more round of applause.